everyone, this video is going to be about something that a lot of you have been asking me about and something that's quite important to me, and it's about my story of my eating disorder. As many of you may know, I suffered with anorexia nervosa. I was diagnosed when I was around 15 years old. Saying that, I believe that I had eating disorder tendencies and disordered thoughts from around the age of 6. Now that may sound shocking, but it's surprising at how many people have disordered thoughts from such an early age, and it only then presents and get diagnosed a lot later on in life. This is important for me to talk about, not only because it's something that I struggled with and something that I'm proud to have overcome, because it's still going on and it's still real and it's still a serious problem for a lot of women out there and a lot of boys and men. Now I just want to give a little disclaimer to say that I am not a medical professional. I have not been trained in eating disorder. I just want to tell my story. If that helps you, then fantastic, but if none of these things help you and if none of these things work for you, that doesn't mean there isn't hope. Between 0.5 and 1% of women are affected by anorexia nervosa. Between 1 and 3% of women suffer with bulimia nervosa, and around 3% of the population have suffered or are suffering with a binge eating disorder. That amounts to almost 24 million people suffering with eating disorders in the US alone. Those figures are atrocious, they're scary, and they are eye-opening. Only around 10% of these people seek and get medical professional help. 10% of that 24 million in the US alone is not a good figure, and that scares me. So a little bit of my background. I was diagnosed when I was around 15-16, but I believed that I had eating disorder tendencies from around the age of 6. Now that's terrifying. A 6-year-old shouldn't be thinking about those kind of things, but it happens and it's real. I felt like from an early age that I was losing control of my life. I never felt like I belonged. I never felt like I had a place where I was accepted and comfortable. I felt as though everyone in my life was going to leave me at some point. I didn't feel like I was worth sticking around for. And that had been quite apparent in a few relationships and parents and things like that, that people do leave, you know? And I saw that as a reflection of myself, wrongly so, but I did. And that, I believe, is what set off my eating disorder. The media was bombarding me every day, as it is everybody, with images of airbrushed, perfect women with slim bodies, unattainably slim bodies. My young mind was seeing these bodies, comparing them to my own and thinking, maybe it would be better if I looked like that, you know? Maybe people wouldn't leave me if I looked better, if I was better. I put my whole self-worth on the way that I looked and the way that others thought of me. That is so fickle, and that will never bring anybody happiness. Basing happiness on aesthetics and the way you look or your size or things like that, the clothes you wear, will never bring you happiness. Comparing yourself to other people, and especially comparing yourself to airbrushed fake images, will never bring you happiness, and in fact will very often bring you the opposite. So I turned to my eating disorder as a form of control. Now I didn't realise that it was an eating disorder early on. I was very much in denial of my eating disorder. At first I was being praised for weight loss, I was being praised for not eating as much, I was being praised for all these things, and that is a huge reflection of the society we live in. To praise a young girl for losing drastic amounts of weight is something that is contributing to eating disorders. It is very much at the bedrock of why eating disorders flame up so quickly. It began with varied forms of diets. So I, like many other women, have been on numerous diets all my life. I'd spent days Googling the cleanest foods to eat. I'd spent days Googling the best exercises to burn fat, the best things to do. It got to the point where it was spiralling, and I couldn't grasp onto it and stop it from spiralling. It just kept going. And that's the scary thing about an eating disorder. Once you are in that disordered mindset, wherever that came from, it's very hard to realise that you're in that disordered mindset and climb your way back out without help. I gained this huge fear of gaining fat or weight. That came with getting approval from the way that I looked and how slim I was, because when I started to lose weight, the approval I was getting and coming in meant so much to me, because I thought, hang on a minute, I'm actually getting recognition for once in my life. Whether that's from the way I look or what I do, it didn't matter. I was getting recognition, and that meant so much to me. I didn't want that to stop. I wanted it to carry on. I wanted my eating disorder to be there and to be that kind of friendship, to enable people to congratulate me and speak to me. My eating disorder to me was kind of like a friend. I was at a time in my life where I felt alone, and I didn't really feel like anybody related to me or that I had anybody. And then I had this disorder that almost helped keep me sane, which is such a weird thing to say, because it was probably what was driving me anything but sane, but it kept me there, and it almost gave me a reason to get up and push on, because I was excited of what the day would hold in how much weight I could lose or how much I could restrict. That kind of control probably kept me alive, and that's heartbreaking to say. To think that a disorder was the only thing keeping me alive, that disorder was the only thing that I felt that I had in my life, is a really sad kind of realisation, but a huge realisation and a huge problem for a lot of young women and men. It got to the point where I got down to an extremely low weight and I was admitted to hospital. At first that terrified me, and something I'm very ashamed of, which I don't want to be ashamed of, was that when the paramedics came to get me, I was spitting out high calorie drinks they were trying to give me to stop my heart from giving out. I was spitting it out, and the reason I was spitting it out was because the thought of drinking something with calories in absolutely freaked me out. At that point, I would have rather have died than drank that drink. That's so hard to think about, you know? But that's the reality. That is the raw reality of an eating disorder. I would have rather my heart have give out that night than drink that calorie drink and lose that control. Now, speaking of that, eating disorders have the highest mortality rate amongst any mental illness. A lot of people don't know that, and it's a heartbreaking and eye-opening and hit-home fact. The following years after that, I made my way into weight restoration, which I class as like the first hurdle of an eating disorder recovery. I managed to gain enough weight to be classed as a healthy weight. However, I was still using unhealthy methods of exercise, and I was still using a healthy diet as an excuse to control my weight from getting too high. It has only been very recently, since finding body positivity and my partner, that I am able to fully reach a recovered state in my mind. Recovery to me takes two forms. One is weight recovery and two is mental recovery. There is no set way to recover from an eating disorder. What works for one person might not work for you, and you might have a special, unique way that works for you that doesn't work for anybody else. And that's why I really feel like professional help is so important, to help you realise what is going to work for you. But that doesn't mean you can't take advice and tips from other people and see if it works for you. Just please don't be disheartened if some tips that worked for me or other people that you follow or love do not work for you. Because as any other mental illness, it's unique and it doesn't always originate from the same place. So not everything that helps other people is going to help you. I can promise you now that recovery is possible, and I'm proof of it here today. I've been in hospital told that my heart is probably going to give out, to being here healthy, raising a baby, going to university, living my life, and I never thought that would be possible. So I am going to tell you now that recovery is possible and recovery is attainable. My eating disorder has taken away so much from me, and I am determined to not let it take away any more of my life. Now, that doesn't mean I resent the time that I had my eating disorder. It just means that I have learnt from it and I'm going to move on from it and appreciate what I have now. I've probably missed a lot because it's a hard topic and there's a lot to talk about. If you'd like me to do videos on eating disorders in the future, if these are helpful for you, then please let me know. I love you all so much. Thank you for the support you've given me over this channel. But yeah, I'm going to go, and thank you all for listening. I hope it hasn't been too long and too boring. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you all next time.